Hey everybody, I'm Arden Kaywin and welcome to the Pro Singer Success Collective. Today you're going to find out if you are wired for a successful singing career. Stay tuned. All right, so we're talking today about how successful singers think. Are you wired for a successful singing career? And it's a great question. And so let's do some digging around and let's find out what's going on in your wiring. So, when it comes to nailing auditions and recordings, are you able to get in the door, but the results are not really consistently what you want? Do you ever find yourself feeling insecure in auditions or insecure thoughts like hijack your brain when you have a callback or a showcase? Does that ever happen to you? Do you ever feel super duper confident one minute and then the next it's like as if insecurity and perfectionism jumps into the driver's seat and completely takes control, leaving you just helplessly along for the ride? Do you relate? Does any of this stuff like resonate with you? Because sure, you want to uplevel your singing career. You're tired of being underpaid and singing local and regional gigs. I know. You're tired of watching people less talented than you surpass you and get the opportunities that you want. But let's just get vulnerable for a second. Deep down, I know that you have had days, or maybe weeks, or maybe months, where you are thinking, what am I doing here? Like, I've been at this for a long time, and my normie friends are moving up in their careers, making real income, buying houses, finally achieving things. And I still feel like I'm at the kids' table in my career. Do you ever think to yourself, find yourself in that place in your mind where you're like questioning your talent, wondering, am I really good enough to do this? Like, am I really talented enough? Is my voice good enough? Do you ever find yourself thinking, am I just kidding myself that this will ever happen at the level that I want? You guys, I understand the damage that the wrong mental wiring can do to a performer's career. And listen, there was a time early in my career that I had bad wiring also. So today we're going to take a deep dive into the hard wiring mindset of those who actually achieve success in their singing careers and get that holy grail of living a big life out of their talents and their gifts. And I want you to know something, by the way, that I was not always wired this way myself. In fact, today I'm going to share with you some really personal stories about my early wiring that needed to be fixed. And I was always a performer and I made it to being a professional performer, but I had thoughts that needed to be shifted in order to adopt the brain of a successful performer. There's a difference between being a professional performer and being a successful professional performer. There were all kinds of thoughts I had about perfectionism, about competition, and even in my early days, doubting my own ability. And so, if that sounds like you're a professional performer, but you're not seeing the success at the level that you want, then you're not alone. You're not. The good news is all it takes is some simple rewiring of your thoughts. So today, you're going to discover what it takes to rewire yourself to start thinking with the successful singer's brain. So, the first thing we're going to get started with is that I want you to know this, that successful singers are completely present when they sing and perform. They're not on autopilot. So, the problem is not actually being in the present moment when you sing, not being in the present moment of your body, of the story, of the emotional arc of what you're doing on stage. You're either in the past or in the future. They're not actually in the moment that you're in with your instrument and your energy and your performance. So instead, your mind is running on autopilot riot, which is shaming you about how bad the last section went, or freaking out about the difficult section that's to come, or being, completely fixated and concerned about what everybody's thinking, whether it's the auditioners or the audience. And here's the thing, guys, you don't even realize it. Like, you don't even know that you're on autopilot. Some of you may have some inkling because you feel contracted in fear, but for most of you, you're on autopilot doing these things subconsciously and you don't even know it. So either way, you just don't know how to detach and just witness the sensations in your body, witness the sensations in your emotional state with the song, with the story that you're telling when you sing in each present moment without judging each little thing. You know how many singers tell me they can't get out of their head when they sing? This is what I'm talking about. You're in this autopilot spin. And so successful singers understand how to be present in the moment with their body and their instrument and what they're singing about, whether they were born that way and lucky them, or whether they were taught how to do that. Here is the second thing that I want you to know that successful singers are able to do in their thinking. Successful singers are able to separate themselves from their singing. I want you to hear that. They're able to separate themselves from their singing. If not, when your singing or your performance doesn't quite go the way you want, or the outcome that you have for the result that you want in your career, or for the audition or for your record, when it doesn't quite go the way you want, you make yourself bad because of it. So if your sense of self is all entangled with your singing, you're in for a lot of struggle, because then every performance, every audition, every sound you make, every vowel you vibrate is now entangled with a judgment about you. So successful singers understand that they have a voice, but they are not a voice. Their voice, their singing, their performances are separate from their sense of self. When your singing gets all entangled with yourself, you don't want to fail. You don't want the note to be bad. You don't want to not get the part, because when you don't, that means that you are a failure. And we can't abide that. Ego mind cannot abide that. So we're going to do all these things and get all up in there to force, manipulate, control, push, all the things to try to sound good, because if we don't, it's now a knock on us, our worth. And that can't be abided. We suffer. And so then we do things that actually make the sound, create the performance that actually make it worse. And then we really don't succeed. And now we beat ourselves up even more. And you see, we have a negative feedback loop going on. So this faulty wiring, it stops you from accessing the full scope of your abilities, your talent, connecting you to an audience, and taking powerful steps to move forward in your career that will really get you where you want to go. So, question for you. Have you ever wondered why you feel like all your auditions go really great? Like you go in, right? Somebody says, how'd it go? And you're like, it felt really good. But then you don't actually get the part. You don't actually get cast in the role you want in the musical, or you don't actually get the gig from the showcase. And it's because you're on autopilot. That's the faulty wiring. Have you ever wondered why you're out there making all of this content, going live, posting videos, all this stuff, and it doesn't catch? It's the same reason. You're on autopilot. You are not present with your instrument, with your audience, with what you're doing. You think you are, but your subconscious programming is doing something entirely different. It's caring about what people think. That disconnects you. It's needing to prove that you are good enough because your self-worth is attached to your voice. That disconnects you. It's needing to be a certain way, sound a certain way, look a certain way. That's not actually the truth of you, but what you think you need in order to be successful, that disconnects you. And people can feel it. And it doesn't land. And then you don't get the gigs. The records go unlistened. The auditions don't get offers, right? This is how it goes. Have you ever wondered why it feels so uncomfortable to invest in yourself in a big way? For that producer, or that training program, or whatever it may be. It's not about having the money, guys. It's not. It's about getting resourceful to do whatever it takes to be able to make that investment that's going to move the needle to get your career where you want to go. But have you ever wondered why it feels so scary to get resourceful? Why so many of you fight for your limitations instead of what's possible? It's because you can't separate your singing from yourself. That's part of the faulty wiring. Because, well, what if it doesn't work? What if I get resourceful and I invest in myself in a big way and it doesn't work? Because if your singing and your career don't go well and it doesn't work, then you as a person are a failure if your sense of self is connected to your sense of singing. So there's no separation. And so then failure of the singing and the career equals failure of the self, like we were talking about. So why in God's name would you ever put yourself out there in a big way to invest in yourself in a big way to get the training or make the recordings or take that flight to go to that big audition in New York or whatever it is? If you have that, if it doesn't work out mindset, then you as a self are a failure. So you play it safe. You never get resourceful. You never invest in the things that will really change the game. You never play big and you stay exactly where you are. And guys, this is not just about your singing. It's about your singing and how your career cannot thrive at the level that you want until you shift these things and rewire your brain into thinking that serves you. And here's another bit of faulty wiring that sabotages so many of your ability to succeed in your careers. Perfectionism. It's this idea that it has to be perfect and I have to be perfect when it counts or else fill in the blank. I'm not going to get the role. I'm not going to get cast. I'm not going to be able to make my rent. I'm going to have to go back to a day job that I hate. I'm going to be spending the rest of my life doing some job that kills me, not being able to sing, feeling like a failure, feeling that like that jaded person who never got to do what they love and end up dying without having my dreams fulfilled and not reaching my potential. That's where the perfectionism takes you. I have to be perfect or else I'm going to die a failure. Literally, that's where the dominoes fall. I had a singer who recently wrote me and she was venting that the pressure of having to sing perfectly was like killing her. It was just like causing her to get in her own way in so many aspects. She was showing up to performances and auditions and she was just like choking because that pressure of having to be perfect in order to succeed was just killing her. It was causing her to go to fewer and fewer auditions, not put herself out there as much because that pressure to be perfect was causing her to show up in a way that was actually making her sing even worse than before. So now she felt that the confidence wasn't there. She wasn't putting herself out there and it was causing her to lose her joy for this art form that she loved so much. And she wrote me and she told me that there was this like internal and external pressure of perfectionism and flawlessness that was just sucking the joy out of it for her. You guys, I hear this often. Like so many of you deal with this. And I had it too. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story was that I left the opera world. I mean, I was moving up in the world. I had gone to one prestigious conservatory for my undergrad, got into another prestigious conservatory for my master's degree, did the leading role as a first year master's student in their production, went on to do two important apprentice programs, sang with the San Francisco Opera. Like I was going. And I got burnt out, not because of what was happening externally, but because of what I was doing to myself in my faulty wiring. I did not have a system to be able to shut off all of the competing voices in my head about how it had to be perfect, it had to be flawless, it had to be, every single time. And, for those of you who are in the classical world, in the opera world, this idea of flawlessness and perfectionism, it's even more like on crack than in other aspects of the vocal art form. And so, you know what I did? I left the opera world. I left. Like I totally pulled the plug. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to be a recording artist because there I can feel free to sing whatever I want and I'm not going to have a conductor breathing down my neck or a director or a composer who's going to be telling me all the things I'm doing wrong. Mind you, it wasn't them, it was me, it was in my head, but I didn't know this at the time. So I go into the pop world and I proceed to make, be on an indie label and record two indie pop records, be on the cover of Napster, like be one of the first indie artists to be on the front page of iTunes. This is back in 2003, when that was a big deal. And I toured and I did all this. And guess what? I was still miserable. I thought doing a 180 would help. I thought that taking myself out of the classical world and going into the pop world was going to make a difference. But guess what? What I learned is wherever you go, you take yourself with you. Wherever you go, you take yourself with you. So here's what I learned is that the difference between those who succeed at that next level and those who stay stuck are those who understand and have figured out how to let go. Like, really, let go of the perfectionism, let go of all the shoulds, let go of what you think you have to look like, sound like, be like, and a huge part of that is letting go of the perfectionism. Your body cannot do what your brain is sabotaging. It just cannot. And when the brain is attached to perfectionism, what do you think happens in the body? If I have to be perfect, or else, remember where the dominoes fell? Or else I'm going to die without ever having reached my potential and living a joyous life. If that's what I'm fearful of, right? That's why the perfectionism is coming in and convincing me that the way to not fail is to be perfect. So, what do you think that I'm going to do in my body in order to not fail and be perfect? I'm going to control, I'm going to manipulate, I'm going to make, force, do, push. Okay. And those things happen in the body and they actually prevent your body from doing the technique that you abandon all that in favor of the perfectionism. The perfectionism would have you believe that those are all the things you need to do in order to achieve that technique, but it's the opposite. But when you're in the perfectionism, you actually create the circumstances for the sound and the performance that you're scared of making in the first place. And it's a vicious cycle. And it doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel good. And even worse, you've lost the joy. And this is why talented singers quit. Without that connection, you don't make an impact in your audience. It's really hard to build a sustainable career if all that perfectionism and all of that, you're in your head so much, it disconnects you from the impact of your audience. It disconnects you from your energy. And you have one job as a performer, and it's to make an impact on your audience. And if your energy is being blocked by all of that stuff that's convincing you have to be perfect and control and manipulate to do that, then you've blocked yourself from the one thing that you do need to do, which is make that impact. It's really hard to build a sustainable career if you're not connecting on your audience and impacting those who are listening. Impact equals income. It's that simple. And it's really hard to stay the course in this career until you get to that place and succeed if the joy is gone. If it's just drudgery, like what happened to me, I was burnt out. So once you learn how to let go and trust, the joy returns. The voice hooks in with ease. The things that scared you and were difficult in your technique are no longer there. They're just not a thing. The audience connects when you have that joy, and then the success comes. So here's this thing, guys. You already know how to let go when you sing. You really do. Like, remember back to when you were a kid and you would just sing with abandon and it would feel amazing? Like, how old were you? When was the last time you really felt like you could just let go and sing? I was at my daughter's elementary school talent show. This was in the fall. She's in third grade now, and the coolest thing about watching those kids is they didn't freaking care. Like, they got up there and it was just pure truth and joy. That's it. It wasn't perfect. Half of them didn't even do the right notes or the right dance moves. Half of them messed it up and they didn't care. And neither did the audience, because there was just so much joy attached to it and so much authenticity attached to it. Do you remember what that was like? And so what happened between when you were that kid with all that connection and joy and now? The difference is that now there's an outcome that you want. And so you're end gaming. Your self-worth is attached to the outcome. So you can't fail because then you'll be worthless. And so the ego mind thinks the best way to prevent that failure is by being perfect. And so now you've associated perfectionism as a necessity to achieve your outcome. And the problem with that is that now you've lost your attachment to the present moment. You're in the future. You're attached to that outcome. You're not in the moment that you're in. You're totally focused on the future and the fear of failure. Focused on losing what you have or not getting what you want. So we think that if we are perfect, we can prevent ourselves from failing. And all that fear creates this end gaining and it takes us out of the moment. So when you think about the kids at my daughter's talent show, they're able to let go. They're able to perform freely and access all of that authenticity and joy because they're not future tripping. They're not end gaining. They're not attached to the outcome at all. They're 8 years old and they're just in the moment that they're in. They're present in the moment as kids usually are. And that's where the joy lives. And I want you to know something. Joy is not an emotion. It's a state of being. It can only exist in the present moment. So that talent show with the elementary school kids that my daughter was doing, that I sat there and I watched, so much joy because they're in the moment. And kids are always in the present moment. That's the beauty of kids. But as we grow up, we start to get conditioned ideas and habits. Maybe it's from your family, maybe it's your religious community, maybe it's the social media, society at large, the school you went to, the communities that you're in, and we start to adopt these ideas and these conditioned ways of thinking that convince us that we are not enough and that we need to then do things to prove that we are enough. And now we get into the perfectionism and the whole thing. I don't need to rehash it. All those expectations, those pressures, all the things, they take us out of the moment. So the farther and farther away that we get from that present moment, the farther away we get from joy. And then again, we're back to the ability to be present when it counts. So when you learn how to rewire your brain to come back to yourself in the moment, to stay in that present moment when you vibrate, when you perform, when you get into your technique, then you remember how to let go. And when you let go, that's trust. And then the joy returns, the voice hooks in with ease, the audience connects, and then you're open to that kind of success that it brings. And look, this is just a piece of the puzzle. A mental shift is super powerful, but without the step-by-step strategy to complement it, it's not going to get you anywhere. And guys, this is why I do what I do. Because a mental shift means nothing without the tools and the structure to actually embody it in the moment of singing, in the moment it counts. And so that's why this is all about linking mind and body, the awareness with the technique in the moment of singing so that you can stay present, let go, and be in the joy and in your most powerful sound in every audition, every performance, every recording session. And that's how you make the kind of impact with your voice and performances that ushers in the kind of successful career that you want. I mean, can you imagine that? Wouldn't that be freaking amazing? To just have that trust and faith to know that you know how to manage your instrument, your whole instrument, which this is part of your instrument, your whole body, the brain is part of that. Like, can you imagine how amazing that would be to not have to worry, but know that you were just going to be present and be able to deliver and make an impact every time that it counts. And it can be done, guys. It can be done. I do it every day with the singers that I work with in my program. There's just no need to continue to be sidelined by all the bad wiring that paralyzes you, that creates nerves and blocks you from connecting to your audience in a way that really moves the needle and impacts your career. And so look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I only say this because I care. But so many of you out there are not the highest and best version of yourself as a singer right now. You have not been living your best life because of it. You're at day jobs you hate. You're constantly chasing this passion and constantly feeling like you're coming up short. You're questioning your talent. You find yourself in depression, in self-loathing because you have this talent. You know you have a gift. You were meant to share it. You're trying, you're hustling, but you're not doing it at the level that you know you can. And that is not your best life. You know it, and I know it. You're in a daily frustration, maybe even real pain, watching other people with less ability live the dream that you know is on your heart. So if you're ready to get on the other side of that, to train in a program that addresses the real issues, that addresses both technique and mindset from the beginning, then please, please, please do not spend another moment in frustration. Do not go to another audition. Do not book another recording session, okay? Book a call with me and let's get you sorted. Let's understand what is going on in your faulty wiring that is having you hustle and put all this energy out there and not see the results that you want. So this call is free. It's totally free. I'm here to support you. And what we're going to do is we're going to get on the phone for 45 minutes and we're going to get some clarity on what's going on in your singing and lay out the battle plan to allow you to finally overcome and rewire the things that have been sabotaging you, get out of the nerves, the pressure, whatever it may be, the perfectionism that's killing your singing and killing your chances at the kind of career that you really want, so that you can constantly nail auditions, constantly show up and get performances that the New York Times is writing reviews about because you're actually good. Constantly nail recordings so that they don't just sit there and languish getting 1,000 plays on Spotify instead of 100,000 plays the first month. That's what I'm talking about here. So that you can know that every time you open your mouth to sing, you will make an impact. And you have the foundation and the tools to do that for the rest of your career. Cut through the noise and finally get noticed by the industry because you know how to get out of your own way and make an impact. And so look, I want to be very clear about who this call is for. If you are a new singer, and by that I don't mean that you haven't been singing for long. What I mean is if you have not had a level of technique and training, if you have not had one-on-one lessons for at least 6 months to a year, this call is not for you. There's a reason that your voice is not showing up the way you need it to, and it's because you just don't have a baseline level of training. So go get that. That will help your level of impact and confidence immensely. But if you have had a lot of training, if you did your university work in vocal performance, musical theater, recording, if you have been out there hustling, going to auditions, releasing records, and you're just being a professional singer, but not being a successful professional singer, that's who this call is for. There are things going on in your wiring that are affecting your voice, your performances, your sound, and your ability to make an impact. And until and unless you get that sorted, I say this not to scare you, but you'll stay where you are. So don't hesitate to book a call with me. Even if you've been watching my videos and my content for a long time now, and you're like, I kind of want to, but I don't know, just do it. It's going to be the best 45 minutes that you spend. We're going to get a lot of clarity. And if at the end of the call you feel like you'd like my help in order to implement this strategy, great, we'll talk about it. And if not, that's okay too. So just click the link at the end of this video to book a call with me today. And if you're watching on Facebook, click the link in the chat and let's get some clarity on what's going on with your wiring that's keeping you stagnating in your singing career, and come up with a strategy to clean all that junk up. So book a call with me now, and I'll see you guys in the next Pro Singer Success Collective episode. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into today's episode. If you want to subscribe, click the link right over there that says subscribe. And if you want to book a breakthrough session with me, which you absolutely should do, then click the link right over here that says book a call to schedule an appointment to speak with us. I'll see you on the next episode.